also need to provide them with a green bin with appropriate signage to dispose of any food scraps. Next, you want to make sure that everyone on the team knows what goes where. Unlike home composting, all food is fine, even bones and greasy food from customer leftovers. But large quantities of grease should still be sent to proper FOG recycling. It's important to keep materials that are made of plastic or other non-biodegradable materials out of the green bin. Plastic-like products that say compostable or biodegradable cannot be sent to organic recycling, even if they are plant-based. When disposing of customer plate waste, make sure to sort out any silverware, plastic wrapping, plastic utensils, or condiment packets. When prepping, make sure to dispose of food wrappers like plastic bags and any lined or plastic cartons in the landfill bin.
Instead of taking dirty dishes full of organic and putting in a bus tub, which goes right back to the kitchen for the dishwasher to deal with, we just separate the organic waste into a separate container. So it's really quite simple, and frankly, it's made the dishwasher's job a little easier because he's not the one in the back separating it. So.
Lastly, now that you have set up your system and know what goes where, all you need to do is keep up the good habits. Incorporate this training into your onboarding process. Make sure signage is well displayed and provide consistent reminders to all staff. Managers are required to periodically inspect the green containers and notify employees of contamination so that the team can continue to learn and improve. If you aren't sure where something goes, ask your shift manager to find out. Appoint a champion to help keep the program on track.
For me, it's been really easy. I don't think that there's been a hard part. Yeah, everybody's on the same page. Everybody likes it. We're all trying to figure out what can go in the green bin, and sometimes we'll have something and somebody will be like, no, that can't go in. Like, yes, it can. No, it can't. And then eventually we all figure it out, and everybody's really excited to figure out the new things.
Thank you for your attention and effort to making this new sustainable program a successful part of our community.
The City of Encinitas Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department prides itself in creating fun and inspiring programs, safe and enjoyable public places, and helpful and supportive services, all of which contribute to making Encinitas an excellent place to live, work, and play. Our Parks Division maintains and operates over 152 acres of parks, including 20 unique community parks, 3 sports parks, a world-class skate park, a 2-acre off-leash dog park, and some of the best playgrounds anywhere in the county, state, and country. One of our parks, Olympus Park, has recently been honored as the 2022 Project of the Year by the American Public Works Association, along with the 2022 Outstanding Parks and Recreation Project by the American Society of Civil Engineers, and the 2021 Award of Excellence in Design for Parks Planning by the California Parks and Recreation Society. However, the works of parks is not limited to, well, parks. The division also maintains 10 miles of streetscape, 82 acres of open space, 45 acres of beaches, and 40 miles of trails. While the Parks Division is diligently working to maintain our parks, spaces, and places, the Recreation Division is continually working to bring them to life. The Recreation Division takes pride in listening to the public regarding their interests and needs and incorporates this feedback when offering classes and programs for people of all ages, interests, and abilities. From hosting programs in the community and senior center and allocating field space to youth sports partners, to hosting popular programs such as Seaside Day Camp at the iconic Scout House and partnering with Marine Safety for the Junior Guard program. There's truly something for everyone. However, programming is not all the Recreation Division provides. Events such as the Encinitas Holiday Parade, Egg Hunt, Ciclovia Open Street Event, Movies in the Park, and the Moonlight Beach Summer Concert Series are all orchestrated by the division and have each become woven into the fabric of the Encinitas community. Home to one of the most robust artist scenes in California, the City of Encinitas Cultural Arts Division wholeheartedly embraces and exalts the importance of art within the community. In the 2022 fiscal year alone, the Cultural Arts Division proudly supported more than 120 programs and events, including 67 concerts by musicians from around the world at the Encinitas Library. In addition, the Cultural Arts Division partners with Encinitas Friends of the Arts for 2 cultural festivals, the family-friendly Dia de los Muertos and Passport to Persia. The Cultural Arts Division also annually facilitates 42 visual art exhibitions from local and regional artists and 6 art nights. In addition to live events, the Cultural Arts Division also installs and maintains more than 80 pieces of public art that you see around Encinitas and facilitates the Community Grant Program that awards $150,000 in supportive grants for Encinitas arts and civic projects. The Encinitas Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Divisions work hard to provide these services and amenities to the community, but none of it would be possible without the department's Administrative Services Division. The Administrative Services Division handles permitting of hundreds of special events and ceremonies in Encinitas, as well as rentals and use of space at the Encinitas Community and Senior Center and the Encinitas Library. Responsibilities of this division also include the oversight and management of leases, operating agreements, grant administration, park and facility planning, program registration, and the oversight of the administration of the Encinitas Ranch Golf Authority. In addition, this division provides administrative support for the Encinitas Sister City program and for the Youth, Senior, Arts, and Parks and Recreation Commissions. Come enjoy the top-notch programming, services, places, and spaces that Encinitas has to offer.
I'm Jill Bankston. I'm a registered professional civil engineer here in the state of California, and I am the Director of Engineering for the City of Encinitas and its city engineer. The engineering department here in the City of Encinitas, we're the ones that are in charge of maintaining the pavement on the road, the curbs, the gutters, the sidewalks, the drainage infrastructure, the traffic lights, the pavement markings, the roadway signs. All of those pieces that really help you get where you need to go within the city are managed in the engineering department. It's really impactful what we do for the City of Encinitas and our residents, but it's kind of hidden. It's kind of often underground, stuff that you're not really looking at to be flashy and fancy, but it's really the basics that help people get around town. The engineering department has 2 pieces. There are the capital project teams, the capital improvement team, and that has 6 engineers. And then on the traffic side, we have another 5 engineers. Our key initiatives are improving the infrastructure throughout the city. That's roads, bridges, sidewalks, things like that, and improving mobility. The City of Encinitas is a really progressive.
Just as you walk inside, there are significant health risks. Some of the short-term effects include oxygen deprivation or hypoxia, which includes dizziness, confusion, and loss of consciousness. Physical injuries, the rapid release of the gas can cause frostbite to the nose, lips, and throat. Some of the long-term effects can cause chronic use and result in nerve damage, and prolonged exposure can harm the liver, kidneys, and bone marrow. Whippets are illegal in many jurisdictions, including California. Why are these sold in a smoke shop? Finally, nearby smoke shops have been known to sell intoxicating, unregulated products with no limits or age restrictions, nor any restrictions on quantities sold. We need local codes to regulate smoke shops and provide protective measures for our residents, especially our youth, who assume that if a shop is open to all, it passes a certain muster of legitimacy and respectability. Please look into this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up is Natalie Satoon. And Natalie, they're working on that.
Hi, Commissioners. Natalie Satoon, Cardiff. So in reviewing the work plan, I disagree with this. I just realized this commission will have a stumbling block with line item number 1. This isn't solely based on Molly Woods Drake Shook, so I would beg to see outside of this. So line item number 1 is attend city-sponsored events and raise awareness of the Public Health and Safety Commission. Serve as city ambassadors by welcoming, meeting, and greeting the public. Serve in a volunteer capacity conducting various event duties as needed. I actually have some overhead. I'm sure everyone would like to see my overhead, not me. Here's one very recent example of hate speech coming from a City of Encinitas Public Health and Safety Commissioner. How is this ridicule, humiliation, and false accusation by a council-appointed commissioner serving or welcoming to residents? I'm Jewish, and this post is directed toward a person who is my friend, referencing that this Encinitas resident can now proudly wear a white hood charging KKK affiliation. This is vile hate speech to the core. It is a reckless allegation committed by a person who sought a public seat with our city to be entrusted with responsibilities for all residents and businesses in Encinitas. Clearly, there is a well-defined limit to whom the City of Encinitas commissioner can be an advocate. And unfortunately, she's not the only person in this position. Encinitas residents are regularly targeted and taunted by appointed members on social media under their own accounts and on pages they deem anonymous. Let me assure you, blog pages deemed anonymous are most certainly not, Mr. Taylor. Let's not conflate freedom of speech with defamation. This commissioner behavior threatens the fiscal solvency of our city. Not only is this work plan fiscally counterproductive, this repulsive behavior puts our city at risk for punitive damages since many residents have previously put this commission on notice. The very commissioner assigned to the Mental Health Ad Hoc Committee is arguably the unequaled perpetrator of cyberbullying in Encinitas. California has laws preventing school children from the same egregious behavior committed by this commissioner. For the rest of you, these types of anti-bullying laws require witnesses to intervene, so I implore you to report your fellow commissioners' behavior to the council. It is this public's right to participate in public forum, and this behavior is an anathema to the city's interest in promoting public participation. Nobody is requiring you to sit on any seat with Encinitas. This work plan must be revisited to ensure all residents are treated inclusively. In addition, this commission should implement a line item alongside of affordable housing for the award for defamation committed at the hands of commissioners seated here. Commissioners who place our city in detriment need to be immediately discharged. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That
Assume there's
concludes all speakers.
Excellent. I think we have, since our last meeting, received the report from the Homeless Ad Hoc Commission, and then we can discuss that, and then any other items that are related to the work plan, I think. So, Commissioner Vaughn and I are quite familiar with the document, so did it spur any discussion from or comment?
The document being what document?
Lois forwarded our report on Friday in advance of the meeting. Did you receive along with the agenda?
I did not receive that. I may have not.
If you open up under your document display for this meeting,
Chair,
one of those.
while our colleagues are becoming familiar with that,
Yeah.
I see we do have some homeless services staff here. Maybe it would be prudent to get some of their thoughts on the draft report.
Happy to do that. Is there any comment from anyone in the gallery on our outcomes and recommendations? Okay. Were you able to find the document?
Melinda Dacey, the Housing Services Manager. We're here to answer any questions if you have any questions regarding the draft report.
Okay. Could someone please help Commissioner Vaughn find the document on the attachment? Excuse me, Commissioner Dominguez. Please judge me by my intent, not my performance, please. I'm really trying to do well.
It's page 16 of the posted agenda report.
Sensing there's a need from the commission to review, so that's one option we can go with. We can also summarize our recommendations if the commission prefers. So what would you like to do? Would you like some time to review, followed by a report on it, or would you like us to just summarize the recommendations?
I think a summary would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you could just go over, it's a pretty long document here.
Yeah, I've read through it and it all sounds good. Ish.
So basically, we introduced the issue as the city's made a bunch of investments in homeless response since and beginning with the adoption of the Homeless Action Plan in early 2021. But if you look at the numbers, homelessness has gotten worse in the city by a factor of about 2 overall and 3 in terms of the unsheltered population. And so we also report out data from St. Andrews in terms of the Saturday morning programs. They have served over 300 individuals this year to date. And for the subset, about 110 that we see most often at St. Andrews, with at least 7 visits through early November, we track how many of them are represented in the HMIS Clarity database, and it's about 60% that have been entered into the database with data sharing authorized. And we track some of the outcomes for some of those folks. Several have gone through BCNC. Of the ones that have gone through BCNC, there's been a broad range of outcomes, from being housed permanently to returning to the street to being hospitalized with strokes or other major medical incidents. There is a variety of anecdotal reports that come back to me mostly from residents who have gone through BCNC, some very, very appreciative of the opportunity, very enthusiastic advocates to other people experiencing homelessness. Others have complaints. The complaints include some repeated pest infestations.
In the BCNC?
Yeah. So basically,
Some
people
repeated,
who are living,
what, I didn't,
pest infestations, so bed bugs, fleas, things like that. And these usually come in from people living on the streets or in their cars, and they bring the bugs into the facility, and they thrive. And I'm sure it's probably a game of whack-a-mole over at BCNC to try to keep it, clean. The other incident that I hear repeatedly is complaints of sort of over-proselytizing. So the staff that run BCNC also run the Green Oaks Ranch, which is sort of a Christian sobriety living facility up in Vista. And so many of the guests or clients, residents, feel pressure from the staff. And others are fine with it. But so that's just some issues that are background coming through the report. I tried to document the anecdotal evidence that we've heard and received and share what quantitative data I can from the St. Andrews experience. I think the next section speaks to the Homeless Action Plan as it was adopted. In general, Commissioner Morton and I believe that the high-level findings from the Homeless Action Plan and the key goals are, largely timeless. They generally reflect pretty closely what's going on today. A little bit of the language needs to be updated. It's no longer the midst of COVID, for example. But at the next level, a lot of the key action items were really teed for the first 3 years of the Homeless Action Plan, 2021, 22, 23. And so it's time, I believe, for the Homeless Action Plan to be updated. And such an update, I think, should include buy-in and input from city leadership, city staff working on this, as well as folks that are experiencing homelessness directly, the frontline workers and volunteers who interact with these folks daily, but also from the general citizens and from the business communities. What are the impacts of homelessness that are most challenging? And after our last commission meeting, Captain Watts told me about an event that they'd had in Cardiff, sponsored by the 101, where they met with residents and businesses in a local park to talk about the homeless issues on site. And he was able to use that feedback to help with sort of patrol assignments and try to manage the most visible or most disruptive areas. And so to me, that's a great model for trying to work with other communities and try to really collaborate on addressing the biggest problems. So the three recommendations at the end of the day that we came up with were first, to revise the Homeless Action Plan. Second, to embrace what's best in class methodology. This is the Built for Zero methodology that comes from Community Solutions. And specifically, this Built for Zero process is about bringing everybody who's working with the homeless residents to the table to work together and collaboratively, to know who's homeless in the city on a by-name basis and keep updating what's changed, how we reached out to people, what have they said, what worked, what didn't work, and using that list and that methodology in these collaborative meetings to drive continuous improvement through these plan, do, act. I don't remember what the full four-letter code is. It'll be in there. But these learning loops where you try something, you see how it works, and you adjust based on what's working and double down on things that are working well. And then the third one is to recognize that homelessness is a housing problem. This is a book, the authors are listed, and it basically studied the variation in homelessness rates from community to community across the United States. And what they find, paradoxically, is that it's the wealthiest communities that have the highest rates of homelessness. And this makes some sense because rents are the highest. It looks at a number of the common things that we think of as causing homelessness: drug use, alcoholism, local politics, and it debunks them. None of them correlate with the rates of homelessness. What correlates with the rates of homelessness is the availability of low-cost housing and the vacancy rates. So having low rents and having available vacancies. That's what explains the variation in homelessness from place to place. And so we urge a sort of yes-and approach to providing and tackling that affordable housing gap. We put some numbers in there. $2,850 is the starting rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Encinitas, according to HUD numbers. For people experiencing homelessness, most of them have an income. It's usually either about $1,150 from their SSI checks for low-income seniors or for people with permanent disabilities, or they're working minimum wage jobs full-time and making $2,400 a month. In neither case can they afford a $2,850 rent. The math just doesn't work. And so some of the solutions that can come into place there are things like embracing shared housing models. Sam Stone, the new Home Services Coordinator, was sharing with me recently work that an organization called Townspeople is doing mostly in San Diego, where they've put online a shared housing collaborative, which is involved in roommate matching and some tools to conflict mediation, things like that, normal roommate issues, to try to support folks that are moving in together to share rents, because that's obviously one way to make your rent go farther. There are programs that the city is involved in, and I was serving on the Affordable Housing Task Force for most of the fall, looking at housing, maybe the city building a 100% affordable housing project, and where would we possibly put that? And the task force looked at city-owned properties mostly, or other government-owned properties, and found some alternatives that are being recommended later this week to City Council as superior alternatives to the L7 site. But this 100% affordable project that the city would sponsor could be one tool to put additional affordable housing stock on the table. But the challenge that we learned during that task force is that when they build apartments, like at Fox Point Farms, the average apartment costs $570,000 to build. So somebody's going to have to pay the difference between what people can afford to pay in rent and what it costs to build new housing. The Housing Authority runs the Section 8 voucher program, which is one way of helping that gap for some residents. One of the challenges is that the wait list is incredibly long. And as the cost gap between what people can afford and what the cost of renting an apartment goes up, the money goes less and less far every time. So it's not that have a magic bullet necessarily, but as we look at what it is that causes homelessness, why did homelessness go up from 2021 to 2024 with these investments that we're making? It's not because we have services in town. It's because the rents went up.
Commissioner Taylor?
Thanks for that summary. I think one of the things that you really definitely touched on is the fact that there's nothing that we are doing in Encinitas that's creating homelessness. Homelessness is a statewide issue. And, for better or for worse, people are in our town that are unhoused. So I think one of the things that really, really needs to be examined, and you touched on it, is the fact that there are root causes to why people are out on the street. There are root causes to why the numbers have doubled based on previous years' point in time counts of people being out in the street. And, having the BCNC and all these other places are great. But if we don't understand what the root cause is, we'll continue the cycle of these people being out there. About a year or so ago, I had a conversation with a gentleman. We were doing community showers and haircuts and whatnot. And I asked him, so what led to you being out here? And he goes, I have a job. It doesn't pay much, but I pay for my car. I have to pay for child support, and I pay for a cell phone so I can communicate with my daughter. And, this man said that, that left him with very few housing options. So he goes to work. He bounces between gyms to take showers, finds places that are doing food to go, and he stays in communication with his child. All of those things are very admirable things, and I think far too often we look at these people as less than human beings. They're not. They are people. And, many people, especially in this town, can find themselves in a situation where they are suddenly well above their means and in a predicament. So again, I ask with that, for the Built for Zero methodology, is there anything in there that does a deep dive or looks at some of the issues that resulted in some of these people being out there? Because yes, there is some drug abuse, there is some alcoholism, but I'd be willing to bet that a lot of that is due to self-medication because of, again, lack of insurance to pay for the medicine that they need. So they do the best that they can with what they have.
Commissioner Vaughn, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of learning from you, Commissioner Vaughn, so if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna take a stab at fielding his question that's in there, and then if you could fill in the gaps when I left as sort of like a chance to understand the Built for Zero as I've come to understand it. A key thing that became apparent, which was mentioned, is like lack of housing is the problem, and we're all trying to do the best with minimum resources. So everything we're doing is underneath that umbrella. And highlighting that there are different reasons why people are homeless. And the current system for HMIS does a great job of capturing a subset of those people. And there are actually some people that are outside of that. And the adoption for the Built for Zero, and a key aspect of it, is individual attention that's paid to each person that's on the street. And it's an attempt to engage them repeatedly with a hope and an understanding that sometimes it takes meeting the people at the right place, at the right time, and that right level. And in my own experience, I've seen just the dumbfoundedness of the moment, right? Where you actually engage somebody after months, years, and who knows what happens, right? And they're somehow available and ready to make that change and turn the corner for their different stage in their journey for homelessness. So my answer to that would be yes. Is there something within the Built for Zero model that identifies the individual root cause for each individual person's? And that's the essence of it, is establishing a list. And the complicating factor we have is there is the HMIS system, but there's still people that are outside that. And so trying to incorporate a system for everything. So with that, my answer, I will defer back to you, Commissioner, correctly named Vaughn. My sincere apologies to you, Commissioner Dominguez. Thank you for your patience with me.
Yeah, so everything Dave said is correct, but there's some more details. So for the people that opt in to the data sharing HMIS system, those are the people that have asked for help resolving their homelessness. The people that are outside of that system are often the ones that have turned down the offers of help. The Built for Zero model brings together the different agencies that are each trying to work with an individual experiencing homelessness, trying to get help. And so what you get is the perspectives from several different people on the same individual experiencing homelessness. And examples where we've worked together collaboratively to help people move forward are again, sort of sporadic and anecdotal. We don't do it systematically, but we all know each other. We text each other when there's an opportunity, there's a window, or there's beds open at PCNC and we need to find the right people to put in them. And what the Built for Zero model and these learning plan, do, study, act, I see it up there. What these learning loops do is ask what interventions are working. So if somebody is ready to get sober, how do we do that? And on a Saturday morning, if I've got Chad Ryan from the county there, he wants to wait until Monday to help somebody because that's when his colleagues are working. We did have a young man who grew up in Encinitas in his 30s decide he wanted to be sober. He was one of the guys that was partying downtown, causing annoyances to the businesses, and he wanted to get sober. So, I got friends in the sober community, called them up, asked, where should we do it with him? And they said, oh, take him to the First Step House. And this is a facility up in Carlsbad it's working on Saturdays and was able to take him in. He eventually, that specific time he relapsed, but he eventually did get sober, and he's been sober and living on his own in regular housing with a full-time job for the last 8 months. And so the successes do happen, and working together, we get the benefits of each other's experience and what did work or didn't work, or an idea. Another case that just happened earlier this month at St. Andrews, longtime clients of ours or guests of ours, unmarried couple that have been homeless for as long as I know, I've been aware, so more than 6 years. And one of the city outreach workers was trying to reach them to see if they'd be interested in BCNC. And we talked with them. And so Sam didn't have the relationship with them from 6 years of seeing them, but I did. And so we were able to lend that trust and familiarity to provide credibility to the BCNC opportunity to talk about people that I knew they knew who had positive experiences at BCNC, and that they could go and ask, what do you think? And hear positive reinforcement. So the opportunities to work together are huge, but we just need to systematically do it.
Anybody else?
In our work here at the city, are we doing anything that maybe mirrors some of the steps toward Built to Zero already? I mean, we have a staff here that's dedicated to dealing with homelessness, and I'm wondering, I'm sure there's a guidebook that says this is the way Built for Zero works, and are we doing anything like that in the city at this point? I mean,
so Stephen and Patty are here.
Right.
If they want to speak to that directly, they're welcome to. There are things that we are doing that are directionally and aligned with it. The HMIS system they've recently gotten on board with, which is a tool for managing parts of it.
and then how do they feel about this Built for Zero? I got to tell you, I have a little bit of a, when someone says that it has nothing to do with drug abuse or mental illness, that's not my experience, as I have gone through, my time out on the streets dealing with people. That's not my experience. So to say that it's debunked, those are not factors, kind of puts me in a position where I'm going, is this really?
So let me just be clear on what was debunked or what were factors, right? When you look at the variation in rates of homelessness from community to community, it isn't because there's different rates of mental illness. It isn't because there's different rates of alcoholism or drug abuse. It's not at the population rate level. That's not what it explains it. It's the cost of housing, the availability of housing. That's not to say that individuals who are homeless don't have a host of problems. that in many cases include drug and alcohol abuse, in many cases include serious psychoses. Just the act of living on the street is a traumatic stress causing behavior that makes these conditions worse for many people. So I'm not saying that those aren't factors involved at the individual level in helping individuals, and we have some tools and resources for some of those. But what we're saying is that when the number of homeless goes from 47 to 140, it's not because suddenly a lot more people are drunk. It's because the rents went up. And you were asking what the city thinks of the Built for Zero, so I'm going to ask Stephen or Patty or whoever wants to take that to respond.
Hi, thank you, Commission. Stephen Gonzalez, Homeless Solutions Coordinator. Just wanted to first thank you for the time and effort that you guys have put into preparing this document and look forward to exploring the recommendations. To answer your question, I think the most important thing to remember is exactly what you pointed out, Dan, is just that it's establishing an inclusive team of multiple disciplines, really, to come together to add all these different layers of challenges and barriers. So
and we're not doing that now?
Yes, and that's working with, law enforcement, working with the county, working with PATH that specializes in substance use, being able to bring the nurses out on the street for certain ailments, and everything that we do is definitely geared around being inclusive, right? And along the lines of the model that you've presented here, and we can definitely build on that. But that's just, I think, important to show that is what's being done, and a very important step with building that multidiscipline team.
I just don't know if we need a recommendation to adopt. I don't know what it means to adopt that model. Does it mean that the city pays for, more programs or services? Will it be redundant? Stephen seems to think that, we're doing a lot of things to deal with homelessness in a collaborative way, involving law enforcement services, trying to do housing.
I think a key thing that I came to understand is their efforts are hamstrung by the subset of people that opt into the HMIS system.
Can you tell me what HMIS is too?
I think Dan could give a better explanation of the HMIS.
There's a lot of acronyms floating around here, and I can tell you the law enforcement acronyms, but I can't really tell you too much about it.
HMIS is an acronym that stands for Homeless Management Information System.
Ah, yes, you reminded
me. It's a
database
that's funded by the HUD federally and required of every continuum of care, which in San Diego County is the Regional Task Force.
So that leaves some people that may still benefit from an approach that has interventions on a regular basis. They're known as and are available for when perhaps the moments come when they're ready to move in a more positive direction. So that's sort of the limitation as I see it right now, is that there's a subset of the homeless people that are not part of that system, and the city uses the HMIS system as these are the people that we can engage. So we're just trying to expand it. We're not saying that
James, just be careful there, because I don't think that's accurate. The city has recently gotten access to the HMIS system and is using it as it's intended.
Good.
There are abilities to use it to report systematically on stuff in the city limits, and I don't know whether we've done that or not. Mm-hmm. But the way that the city has managed some of the individuals predates their access to the HMIS system.
And I'm just wondering, what does Built for Zero do to lower rents or build more houses?
Built for Zero systematically captures the data on who is homeless in real time, provides aggregated data that's been anonymized of any personally identifiable information, but it's at the population level. So you can now start asking questions. What investments that the city council makes in homelessness are most effective? When we're going through the BCNC clients, who has worked? Who has gone on to permanent housing? Why have they failed? Are there things that we could do differently in interventions? Can we leverage CalAIM money and systematic health check-ins early in the process to improve outcomes by getting people the medical care they need?
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
So I'm understanding what you're saying. What is the fiscal impact of this? And, you know, we've sat here last time we met, and Marlon brought up a list that was a bunch of pages long about, you know, resource readiness and things that we could do to improve public safety. And, you know, we were reminded that, hey, you know, this stuff costs money, right? And so we were, I wouldn't say admonished, but we were kind of moved over to the space where, you know, we want to do things that we're realistic, right? That we can actually, you know, accomplish. And so my question is, fiscally, how is this like a program that will cost the city tons of money? Is it redundant to what we're already doing?
It provides additional structure to work that's largely already being done. And it systematically coordinates the various stakeholders who are already working with the homeless population so that they're working more collaboratively, more closely together. It captures the data and reports it up more systematically so that policymakers can make better investment decisions with where to direct limited resources.
There you go. Being able to look at that data from the top down allows you to be able to have the ability to really, are my dollars going further here than they are here? And if they're going further over here, let's put more over there.
Gotcha. So does this cost money, like on the front end? I mean, I understand that.
I don't believe so. Maybe there's a licensed organization that you would use to get access to some of their tools, but it would be a very, very minor cost. This is mostly a matter of better utilization of existing staff and volunteer time so that you're not chasing the same person around town. You're talking with people that are talking to the same person to coordinate how do we get them the help they need.
Yeah, and I guess understanding that we're just in an advisory role. I mean, we're not going to, you know, we're not going to solve this problem. Okay, I know that we're not going to solve this problem, but you know, does staff feel like this is a good way to go?
I think it's very hard to ask staff that question because we're the advisors to the council. I think they're able to tell you what might be doable or what might be undoable or what the experience that they've had is.
Patty Anders, I'm the planning manager for our division. I think we are limited and we are directed by staff, so our council rather. So I think some of the things that we're doing and Stephen's doing currently are being handled by this model. It's not exact, of course, but he does regular coordination on a regular basis with our community partners, our county partners, but we do have limited resources. So.
You know, I think my biggest question is, what's the alternative? You know, everybody wants a swift response, a swift action, but, you know, what's the alternative? You know, you can either figure out a humane solution that, you know, kind of sort of works, or you can, you know, take the sledgehammer approach that some cities have taken, and, you know, and I'd be willing to bet that those results haven't been that successful either. So, you know, my purview from the cheap seats here, I feel like, you know, a combination of what the city's already been doing, along with taking another approach, such as looking at Built for Zero and digging under the hood and looking at some other things that may potentially work, is worth exploring. Because again, the root causes of why people are out on the streets in Encinitas, in Solana Beach, in Del Mar, in San Diego have nothing to do with Encinitas or Solana Beach or Del Mar or San Diego. It's a bigger issue. And do we want to criminalize poverty or mental health? You know, that's the $1 million question. And that's the approach that some cities have taken. You know, from my purview, I don't think that that's a great approach.
Well, I mean, we had the sheriff here talking last meeting, meeting before that, about what their approach is, and I think it's light years away from criminalizing it, and more certainly more geared toward, you know, helping people up. And,
exactly.
You know, so I think we're on the right track, right?
Yep.
I mean, and we've talked about this before. I mean, I know we've had speakers here from the city at, you know, discussing how our model is a model that other cities throughout the state are looking at. And so, you know, I just think we're doing a pretty good job, and it's sort of like shoveling against the tide, it seems like. I don't know where we go, and I don't know if this is, that's why I'm trying to like pin you guys down. Is this something that we really want to present as a recommendation? I don't know, right? But
I would like to turn to the 3 recommendations that we have made. And the first one being the City of Encinitas should update its homeless action plan target first half of 2025. Now that would meet the recommendation or in our work plan for, I'm scrolling up here and singing to you also, number 8, which was support, review, and make possible recommendations on the city homeless action plan and work to reduce homelessness. So for number 8, I'd ask if we're, as a commission, just comfortable with that as our recommendation for number 8, which is using the supporting recommendations that we provided in the report, make the recommendation that they actually update the city's homeless action plan. Do you all feel comfortable with that recommendation?
I do.
Okay. And then next would be the City of Encinitas should fully embrace Built for Zero methodology. Now, perhaps language could be amended, which would be more aligned with City of Encinitas consider embracing the Built for Zero methodology. You know,
It's a recommendation, right?
Yeah, it's a recommendation, but I just want to also say, like, as a commission, maybe our recommendation isn't that it should fully embrace, based on this conversation, right? Fully embraced. Maybe there is different language that the commission would be more comfortable with if they're not comfortable with that language. So, just knowing what I know about the Built for Zero model, and as has been explained, it's not everything. I'm behind that, but how does the rest of the commission feel?
the language as it is in that bullet seems fine to me, but if we want to make it a little bit more nuanced, I'd say something along the lines of the city of Encinitas should study and review elements. Should study and review Built for Zero methodology for possible consideration of elements of the methodology to the city's homeless action plan or something along those lines. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down.
I'm going to ask for something with not as many clauses in,
exactly.
in that. So
I like it as it is.
Okay.
But but if we want to, I don't know. I'd keep it as it is.
Yeah, it's a recommendation, right? The council can do with it what they want.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm hearing 3 people in favor. Are there any other comments, or should we?
Yeah, I like the idea of should review it and study it and try to make a determination as to whether or not that's something that we should fully embrace.
Okay.
So from my perspective, that's what the ad hoc commission did this year. And so our recommendation coming from us is that they should embrace it. That doesn't mean that they can't pressure test that recommendation.
Right, and I get that.
I would just remind that, like, it's our recommendation, but it's not the commission's recommendation, and that we need to work together for the commission, and that we should work towards unanimity if possible, and that's what we're trying to do right now, is work towards unanimity, right? Our recommendation is not the recommendation as the ad hoc. Like, our recommendation as a commission is based on the review of what we present to them, right?
If you're saying that the commission doesn't have to take the ad hoc committee's recommendation word for word, I agree. But there's a reason that we did the studying, we did the work, we did the effort all year to come up with the recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Andrade?
I mean, I think Built for Zero, everything's better with more data, and more information. So from what I'm hearing, there's low fiscal impact, and it's just going to provide more data, which I think will enable council to make better decisions. So I would say fully embrace. I think that, again, data helps direct dollars where they need to be going. That's actually providing positive results for these folks and also citizens of Encinitas. So.
Okay, seeing everybody's position right now, and perhaps there'll be more discussion, I'd like to move down to the 3rd recommendation to see if we have unanimity on that, so just so I can sort of gauge the time frame that we have for further discussion. So for number 3, homelessness is a housing problem. The city of Encinitas must increase the availability of housing affordability to extreme low-income families to reduce homelessness. It's the recommendation from the ad hoc committee. How does the rest of the commission feel about that language?
I love it.
Does it work for you?
Yep, works for me.
Once again, I'm back to where I don't feel comfortable just, saying this is the way we're recommending and the way we should do it. I think that
what in this particular one would make it more palatable to you?
Must increase.
Okay.
Must increase. So I mean, how does that happen?
Is there language that you would resonate better for you that we can discuss?
Maybe similar to what we talked about on the other one, which didn't work either.
We're not done with the other one. We're going to discuss it more.
Okay.
We're not done.
So basically, continue studying how the city might impact the availability of affordable housing instead of must increase.
Okay. So there'll still be some more discussion on number 3. I'd like to turn our attention back to number 2. I'd like you to take as much time as you'd like and consider language that would be palatable to you that we could consider.
Yeah, I already mentioned it, that they
Say it
would
again?
study.
City
would
of
study
Encinitas would study
the feasibility of.
the Built for Zero methodology.
Exactly.
Sure. City of Encinitas
And then how, what are we doing already, and how, are we duplicating
it's
it?
okay.
Yeah, I'm
It's okay.
talking.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
okay.
thinking also.
Good.
Aren't we already doing much of this? And where are the gaps? So I think the language of studying it would be what I would be more comfortable with.
Okay, so the recommendation I'm hearing is the city of Phoenix should study the feasibility of the Built for Zero methodology. Yeah? Okay. I'll ask the commissioners, hearing this minority opinion from Commissioner Dominguez, is anybody in favor of amending their position on the current reading of the bullet?
So I'd be willing to consider language around the words should and fully to possibly soften them slightly. I'm sort of opposed to a recommendation that the city should study something. That's sort of like a non-recommendation to me.
Okay. So what would work for you?
City of Encinitas should embrace Built for Zero methodology. City of Encinitas should look for opportunities to implement Built for Zero methodologies. City of Encinitas should implement Built for Zero methodologies.
Okay.
Something in that general vein.
Yeah. Again, this is merely a recommendation. We've done the studying for them, and this commission has been asked to make a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
What the city does with that recommendation is completely up to the council. I don't think their actions are going to change based on the verbiage in there. We can say should consider, should pretty please consider, any of those things, and I don't think it's going to change anything. So I would, again, the work that's been put into this speaks for itself. The gaps that have been identified are in the document. The recommendations are in the document. If there's any interest or curiosity into considering it, they will. If there's any, reason that they will not, they will not. And I don't think the verbiage in that bullet is going to change that one way or the other. So I would recommend keeping it.
I'm going to allow final comments from Commissioner Andrade and Commissioner Dominguez, and then we'll move on.
I have no further comment.
Okay.
And I think it's okay for us to disagree, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's all right.
Okay. In that light, we're going to, based on the discussion that we've had and the attempt to come to full unanimity behind the decisions and having all the opinions expressed, I think, fully, we're going to go with the city of Encinitas should fully embrace Built for Zero methodology. We'll embrace a similar methodology here for this next one. Commissioner Dominguez, if you could provide sort of something that would work for
Yeah,
you.
I think similarly.
Perfect. Yep.
I don't think I have to go through it, and I think we'll
Please.
probably end up with the same results, so
I'd like you to be heard. So if you,
I feel heard, I feel heard.
Okay.
I have no problem.
All right.
I feel heard, I just,
All-
I do.
I don't want to minimize the importance of that. That being said, based on Commissioner Dominguez's minority opinion and comments about changing the verbiage. Has that swayed any of the commissioners' position on the current language? Not seeing anybody jumping to the floor about that.
You know, again, I feel like this is one that could stay the same. You know, I think it's also, I would, there's a twofold reason why I feel that way. One, again, we've done the work to figure out what the issue is, and it's our recommendation. And number two, we have a new council that's going to come on board, and they've expressed very strong feelings about, you know, the way affordable housing is going to look in this town. So I think, again, it's our responsibility to lay it out there. And again, whatever the council wants to do, they will do. But, you know, I feel like we should be able to rest easy at night to say, hey, we've given them the information that they need. And I'm comfortable and content with whatever decision that comes from that.
Okay, thank you.
And I also think that you're right, it probably doesn't matter. The information that's in there is what they're going to use to make a decision. So what the language, I just can't go behind the language of that.
No, it's very fair.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent. I think we're ready to move forward then with these will be the 3 recommendations that come out. I think I identified number 8 for the first recommendation, where it would go. Let's look at the plan.
I think all 3 are under 8.
All 3 under 8?
Because they're working to reduce homelessness.
Okay.
There is another part of the work plan where we were asked to identify resource gaps.
Yep.
And
that's worth discussion.
Another part
here.
of the report does speak to that.
So that's actually something. So that's the one part of our work plan that we currently have no recommendations in. We spent a lot of time here on the homeless ad hoc committee today, which is fantastic. But I will make just a call if anybody else had from their work something that they'd like to bring to the forefront for resources and gaps and services available to the community.
So James, there is a section of our thing that specifically identified resources and gaps, because that was part of what we were tasked with.
From the homeless action, from the homeless
from the report, yeah. If you just scroll up a little bit farther in the report.
Starting on page 5, or page 5 of the report, page 10 of your packet.
Right. I think you're missing what I'm trying to accomplish here. I'm just saying we spend a lot of time talking about the homelessness right now, and I'm happy to use those, and we're going to add those in, but there's other like gaps and resources available to the communities, so that comes from the homeless as well as here's I think your point, right? The mental health and public, they're not here. So, all right. Not having heard any gaps from them, we'll have to move forward. Thank you. It takes me a little time to catch up sometimes. Perfect, appreciate it. So, want to run us through those, Dan?
Yeah, I'll just kind of read at a summary level.
I mean, there's 6 of them here. So are we going to add all? There's no recommendations tied to the gaps in services, right? We just identified them, so they don't think there's any.
Identify resources and gaps, and so we have gaps in services and we have available resources. So I would just reference the report
inside there. Okay. I'm comfortable with that. What's written in there. How do the other commissioners feel? Would you like us to review this? Have you reviewed it enough to your purview? Are you comfortable, other commissioners?
I would also invite the commissioners. This is a draft report, and I know that you guys obviously didn't have a huge amount of time to study it and mark it up and make comments. But we don't have to finalize this until our December meeting. Right. So if there's edits that people want to suggest to us between now and then, we're all ears. And likewise, our intention is to socialize this and get other people's reactions as well. And if those learnings materially change things, we'll make the updates. This is a working document.
Exactly.
It's a status of where we're at this moment. It's not the end of the year yet.
Commissioner Vaughn, if I can ask the commissioners to send them to me, and then I will send them to you just to make sure that there's no discussions outside of the meeting room.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I think our takeaway then is we, in lieu of receiving additional comments about the gaps in services, and also with the potential of seeing gaps in services from the Mental Health and Commission or from Robin Sales, which we could also add to the work plan, we'll go with what we have, right? So just if you guys want to make some recommendations, have more review, so there's all the time in the world, just submit them to Lois. But I think that's kind of where we stand with the work plan. So I'll open up. Are there any, we have bullet points underneath each one in the work plan. So is there anything else that people would like to add, change? We have time to discuss.
Here's a general process question, which is, when are we supposed to work on the 2025 work plan?
Next December. So that I'll have my ask would be that before now in 2025, you think about the items you want to add, between now and the December's meetings, you think about the types of things you'd like to have added to the work plan. We can submit those to Lois. We'll have them at least 3 days in between. They'll be available for public comment. And if, it all works out and we align and we have the conversation, we'll have our work plan, draft in December. Right? So I just ask that everybody come to the table 3 days in advance with what you want to add to the work plan, what that wants to work for, and then it can be a very productive meeting. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe Vice Chair Dominguez has an update to item number 1 for outcomes.
So yeah, I did attend that Dia de los Muertos event. There's probably, I don't know, maybe like 100 people there, some kids, young families and whatnot. It was a really nice event. It really was. It was all held inside the library, and they did some dancing, cultural dancing, music and whatnot inside the community room. The only thing I was left wondering is, well, I was the only commissioner there, but there was no city staff really that had any kind of setup. So I just walked around and made conversation with people, and nothing really came out of it. So I go back to, that we should have a place, like some sort of table or pop-up or something that identifies us and who we are. And, I think it's a good idea to attend these events and hear what the people have to say about public safety, health and safety in Encinitas, and we should be, forward-facing with the community. So if we could get something like that, that would be really helpful.
So we can't.
I'm going to be going to the holiday parade as well.
So we can't have a formal setup as a commission because you can't have a discussion outside of a public meeting or
So I can't talk to the public?
You can have it as a commissioner, not as the commission. So if you have a formal setup, that is you representing the whole commission then. So you can go walk at a meeting. If there is a city table, you can be a part of the city table, but we cannot have a setup as just the whole commission.
So maybe that would come out of the work plan for next year.
It's a good recommendation. Yep. For the discussion. But I would take to heart that you did say that you felt it was a valuable experience.
Well, I enjoyed the event. I just
Yeah.
didn't see I didn't see any value in being there because I really, other than a little name tag, I really wasn't identified as, a place for the public to come to and talk to them.
Yeah. My experience when I was doing the Cardiff Dog Days, being present and around, it provided me a chance to engage with people and have the conversation. Oh, by the way, I happen to serve as Commissioner of Public Health and Safety. Do you have any public health safety concerns? So, and wear the badge. And I didn't have a host of discussions. I did get into an interesting discussion with about 3 or 4 times. But I did have the luxury of an anchor because the city did happen to have a table there. There was a rec and park table that I could kind of like anchor, and that was, for lack of a better term, it felt like it gave me some sort of like authenticity to being there. So maybe dropping it off the Dia de los Muertos calendar might be something we consider for sure.
Or maybe consider that that the city have more forward-facing table group at every one of these events, right?
I think the point of frustration for me is, especially over the last couple meetings, I keep hearing all of the things that we can't do. And item number 1 was brought up in meeting number 1, attend city-sponsored events and raise awareness of the Public Health and Safety Commission. How do we raise awareness of it if we can't talk about it? How do we, I don't want to serve as like a welcoming party.
Well, it's funny because it's a hard question to answer, but we come to these meetings, right, and the public is there and they comment and we can't talk to them, right? That's right, isn't it, Lois? And so it's like, so I feel the same sense of frustration.
So, I'm like, this was meeting number 1, topic number 1.
Right. So I think maybe that's something for the next work plan to figure out a way to make that happen where we can, get feedback from the public on what's important to them, and then have a two-way conversation about it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the enjoyments I think I see for this event. We're thinking for Mental Health Month in May, right? Where there's front and center in public health and safety. So I'm thinking that's covering us right now. I'm ready. Really, the takeaway then is I will draft, got a neat little memo format of what the recommendations would be. Underneath the recommendations, the bullet point will be sort of a justification piece, and I'll circulate that 3 days before the meeting in December for everybody. So we'll be able to come to the table with comments about that and should be able to move forward pretty quickly. And then additionally, ask everybody to come and present 3 days in advance to Lois the recommendations on what the 2025 work plan would look like.
Just to clarify, the homelessness report in its final form would be part of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just real quick, too, before we get into the 2025 work plan, will we be able to hear from sheriffs and fire about what they may want or could see us doing?
Again, that kind of gets into what was talking about with the city staff, right? Like, they're in a tough position. Like, they have avenues already in place to talk to city council about what they want, what they don't want, and what that goes, right? So in that sense, they're here to answer questions that we may have for our own recommendations. But
okay, so this is just strictly our recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're here to answer our questions. So if you have specific questions you may have, but offer their opinions about what changes and what not is.
Well, I just didn't know, like, is staffing or, things that we could be helpful with. I mean, obviously, they know their industry better than we do at this
So
point.
perhaps a good question, do you feel that you have the current resources available to identify any staffing shortages you may or may not have? Do you have the avenues of communication to communicate your staffing needs currently?
Currently, we are in a position where our bandwidth is not there to support many of the programs within our own fire service and fire prevention and training. So this will definitely impact us, but we will do our best to work collaboratively with other departments in our city to see what we can do to follow your recommendations.
Okay.
Chair Morton, if
Yes.
I may, I need to post the agenda 3 days before the meeting.
Oh, yeah,
So-
okay, yeah, all right.
I will need everyone's input in probably, if the meeting is on Monday, December 16, it is recommended to give it to me by Wednesday, December 11.
Perfect.
Chair.
Yep.
Back in May, we'd made the recommendation regarding the Lebanon fire truck and the short hoses, and we were also had an open item about sort of wildfire evacuation. Just wondering if fire has an update on anything with regards to the Station 6 fire truck and any sort of brush clearing, vegetation management efforts for facilitating evacuation.
I do know that our fire prevention team is working every year with our public works in making sure that we continuously expand vegetation clearance on all the evacuation routes. I think we went from 10 feet the first time to 15 feet. I believe next year we're going to be at 20 feet clearance, but that's in works with fire prevention. I can't speak very much to that because it's not my area of knowledge, as it would be to them. However, I know that's in the works and that's being done. Chief Gordon has had several conversations with different groups in regards to land acquisition and potential builds for Station 6. That is not complete yet, and we do have ideas as to the modeling that we would like to have and the type of apparatus once that comes to fruition. But as far as anything in concrete at this time, no.
All right. I think I'm going to call this meeting adjourned.